All right. How's everybody doing? I don't know if anyone's going to be here. I didn't change the title till about 15, 20 minutes ago. I thought I changed it, but it was a long week. I'm going on a business trip. Oh, it looks like there are some people here. All right. So for the people who are here that didn't get chased away by my monkeyness, this is Skylar in the middle. And, you know, Lucas, he's been here before. Like I said, anybody who wants to come on, come on. And we're going to talk. We'll talk some Dolphin stuff. I'll throw some topics out there. You can hear what they think. You guys talk about what you think, and we can see where we're at. So I really want to go over, as we go into year 3 of Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel, where we at? What's it looking like? You know, you could say, hey, we might have made the playoffs year 1 and year 2, and that's a really good thing for us, for our, you know, beleaguered franchise. But ultimately, we need much more than that. I thought that 23 was our peak talent season, and we missed that. And I think the goal is now to reinflate 24 to make something happen there. So anyways, Skylar, you want to take it off? Tell me what you think about the situation now. Say your highs to everybody and all that stuff.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks again, Curtis, for having me on. I'm a little bit more pessimistic about our future right now. I think personally 22 and 23, those were my high expectation years. Those were the years where we could have won. And now that we didn't, I think it's all downhill from here. I think we waited 5 years for Tua. Tannehill took 7. We're in the same situation all over again. Rookie QBs prove themselves every year. It feels like Dolphin hell, Dolphin purgatory. We're never going to escape it.
All right. Well, that's fair. That's fair. Well, I you know, my hope meter really was the highest last year. I pegged that when I first started doing it 2 years ago. This year, I thought the meter would still be pretty good, but I thought 25 was a drop off. But as I studied what happened last year and what we got on the table now, my meter is, hey, I could see some things happen if we do some real work. But I am a little in the pessimistic category, but there's things that can obviously change all of that. So we'll get into that. Hey, Daniel, why can't I can get into that one. We can get into that one. Lucas, why don't you take a stab at that one? I'll get into that one next. That's a good one, Daniel. What's going on, brother? Thanks for stopping by.
Daniel, you want an answer? I got 2 words for you. Chris Grier.
All right. Well,
I know that's a cheap shot. You know, Laramie Tunsil was like a home run, and that was, you know, obvious. Like, you can't even credit him for that one. Other than that, Robert Hunt. You know, you have to give him credit for hitting on Robert Hunt. That was a, I don't know if I'd call it a home run, but he's a solid player for us. You know. I would say home run because it was a 2nd round pick. Okay.
I would say home run.
Okay. Fair. Yeah. I mean, you know, we're certainly happy with him. I don't know what his PFF grade was or anything last year, but he's continually gotten better. I
don't think he was best suited for this scheme, wide stretch zone runs. He's more of inside zone man blocker. I don't think he's gotten to. I think that he was better in the Gailey system.
Right. And the other thing about that is if you for example, like you live in a certain neighborhood and you have the nicest house on the block, the value of all the other houses around you brings the value of your home down. So the same thing with him. If he's trying to chip and help out, you know, to his left and right, which he was with Eichenberg at center and Austin Jackson at tackle at times, you know, he's trying to help out and bolster the line as a whole, not just his responsibility, you know. So I think that is you know, some added pressure, and he doesn't get, you know, as much credit for that. That's not something that you can put on paper on numbers.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I guess everybody kind of knows I like the offensive line. It was always my favorite, but somehow be covering the Dolphins during this time period has become, what I talk about most. But, when I eval people, when they come in, you look at them and every single player has a strength and then they have weaknesses. And so the weakness is how an NFL player is going to make their bones, how they're going to survive and grow. They've got to raise those weaknesses. And as they raise those weaknesses, there's less areas to expose. And one of Hunt's biggest problems with swaps and switches and play recognition. So he would be one way and recognize someone, say, on a stunt or a swap, and he wouldn't swap out and switch well. And he's grown really, really well in that. And his peripheral vision, his swiveling of his head has grown. I really like Hunt. I really think that guy is going to, and he's not at his prime. So I think, I don't really like Chris Grier. That's pretty, I've said that a number of times. But, you've got to understand that any evaluation, you can be wrong. And even if somebody's not good at something, you've got to be fair within that. And to me, that was an absolute home run hit. But, obviously then you have Kinley, 2 4th-round picks was a miss. And you have Jackson, who's still not there no matter how much they want to pump him up. Eichenberg is 2nd and 3rd. You can go through the list. He hasn't really drafted well. Tunsil was an easy, clear hit. You can't miss that one. But then you got the Dallas Thomases, and you could say, oh, well, he wasn't in charge. But he was the head of college scouts. And so people don't understand what that means is that when you're the head of college scouts, you're picking all the top guys that you want. You're setting the protocols on what you're looking for and how to define what's good and what you want. Then you're taking what the coaching staff wants, and then you're disseminating that. And then you're filtering down all these players into a certain a number that they can handle. And then you're giving it to the staff to look over. Then you're sitting around. So, you're in a major piece. And in some ways, you might even be more important than the GM because you are the guy directly involved. The GM's there, but he's got so much work to do. So, I think to answer Daniel's question is, it's weird that he came from Bill Parcells' line, but he's not really drafted well. Jonathan was not Jonathan. What's the guy's name? The 2nd-round tackle that was Bully Gate guy, Jonathan.
Oh,
yeah. Whatever. He hasn't drafted that many offensive line, but his misses are very high. But he has had some hits. So I think it really just revolves around the staff. The same staff's been here for a long time, and every staff is going to have strengths and weaknesses. And our weakness appears to be offensive line, whether that's specifically Chris Grier. It's a totality of staffs, scouts, and whatever else. Hold on. Steve said Hunt 70.1, solid, good. Yeah. But I also think too, like I said, that if you look at him, he's not nimble enough to play a tackle. He's pretty nimble at a guard to get to that second level and do some things. But that heavy zone stretch, it's not his best suit. And I thought that like with Connor and him and the inside zone, they did really, really good stuff. I think that, he was also injured this year too. But I think he's just, this is his first contract. So he's going to get better. I think this guy's got really good. I don't think he's going to be great Hall of Fame or anything, but I think this guy's going to be very good. So I think really Chris Grier, him and his staff have really struggled. What do you think, Skylar?
Yeah, O-line, not good at all because of Chris Grier. Austin Jackson, he refuses to bench Eichenberg, trade Eichenberg, do anything with him except start him. It's not been great. He's skipped on a lot of good opportunities in the 1st and 2nd round to draft good, talented offensive linemen, and he just repeatedly.
Well, you just actually said something to me that woke something in my brain. I thought it was really. Look at San Fran. They moved off Trey Lance and went with Purdy. We could have drafted Zach Tom in the 3rd or 4th round, I believe, and this guy is a stud. We could have played him at guard or tackle, and he could have moved. Look, sometimes I think I respect Chris Grier in a lot of ways because he does create his own direction. I think it's retarded. I think it was like foolish. You know what I mean? But you gotta give people credit for being in the very highest position and to go that daring route. And I give him respect for sticking by his players. But your resume is by what is. You can say, hey, I screwed up. I spent second and third on Eichenberg. But look, I got Tom for a fourth, and look at him, how awesome he is. But he went to the Packers. We interviewed with him. And I think that's a problem. Like, sometimes a good quality of yours actually becomes a detrimental. Yeah, they did. But they kind of knew he would be a guard too.
Yeah.
I think they were like, hey, you know what? We're going to try him at tackle. And I think they did in the first couple of years with Gailey. But, like, you know what? Even if he doesn't, we're going to fit him at guard. We need guard too. You know, so I don't think it was really like a miss as far as that. I think they understood the process. So I wouldn't. Oh, yeah. For a second and a third, they could have had Trey Smith, Humphreys. They could have had, what's his name? The guard. He was a tackle, and then he was a guard. Cosme. They could have had a bunch of guys that year. That was a big miss. Oh, yeah, that was a bad year for us. Yeah, they don't. We only have the first and the second, unless we trade back with the first. So, I think that I missed.
We're going to go with. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a Core. Hey, what's going on, Core? Anthony Weaver's honestly the emerging front runner. Yeah, but you know what? He's been an associate assistant, head coach. He's been around for a while as a player. I don't think a lot of guys, Fangio was a big deal for him. If you go look, Fangio and Gailey were the two biggest names to come here. And really no one else but that in a long, long time. It's a fraternity, guys. And when Ross stabbed Sperano in the back, it was a big talk. Like, he's pissed off the fraternity because that was really treacherous. And then you had Gailey here, and then there was a screw job there of some sorts going on. You don't even ask him, or you just start to it without him. That was a problem. Then you get Fangio here, and you got to pay tooth through the nose to get him here. And now he's on the way out. You're calling him an idiot. And you're not really, consulting on him at the tail end of the season for whatever that is. You're just sending players. There is a fraternity here, and it seems like they're not really interested in that fraternity or respecting that. They'll enter into respecting the players, but coaches, they'll do whatever. So Anthony Weaver's not a bad prospect, but it's probably one of the best we're going to get. Frazier went to Seattle. You're going to have a hard time getting people here. You remember Ross is a big fan, a friend of Harbaugh, and he didn't want to sniff us last year, and now he's off with the Chargers. So there's a lot of stuff here. Your beggars can't be choosers. So I don't know. Yeah. I think it's not a bad. I don't think it's a bad choice. What do you guys think about Anthony Weaver?
I don't know. I think just like McDaniel, I think he would have been the best OC in the league, but as a head coach, he's just not quite ready yet, in my opinion. And
they were desperate, though.
I think Anthony Weaver's kind of like on that. Like, he doesn't have too much experience with the defense, like running it. So I just want more experience. At this point with the team where we're at now, we need experience, and we need to get our team as best as possible. Defense.
The problem with that is we bring somebody in that has experience, and then we send them out, to pasture after a year, or 2 years, whatever it is. Like, each time we get talented coaches in, like, if we happen to get them, like Curtis, like you said, we can't get these people in because it's a fraternity. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick was a main reason why we got Gailey. Yeah, thank you. Because he had success with him and the Jets or wherever it was. I don't remember.
Yeah, Jets. They were together, Jets and Bills, I believe.
And the Bills, okay, yeah. So that wasn't even us. That was Fitzpatrick, bringing him in to help out Flores, who clearly needed help on the offensive side, and probably was given a blank slate, for the most part, until he realized, this isn't going to work because they're pulling strings behind my back and forcing to it, and when he's not ready. So.
Well, honestly, I wouldn't consider Weaver the bottom of the barrel. Bottom of the barrel, we've had what was the guy's name? Oh, I can't remember. Burke. he was a bottom of the barrel kind of guy. Remember we had Burke.
Matt Burke.
Yeah, that's the bottom of the barrel.
He was good.
Yeah, he was okay. You know,
I mean, we had a decently ranked defense, kind of bend don't break kind of thing. But I remember like them making decent plays and coming up big for us at times. So
yeah,
I think they developed some good players under him. But
yeah, but you know, he really didn't. I mean, I thought what's his face was bottom of the barrel too, O'Shea. But O'Shea I liked a lot too, but he didn't get a gig anywhere. That's usually like a sign that like when he leaves us and he doesn't go to that same job, that's usually a sign that, you know what, it's kind of the bottom of the barrel. But Weaver, he's got experience as a player, which is a great thing to have. He really has been around for a while. I don't think for a second he's going to have the same talent as Fangio. He's going to do as well as Fangio. But, you know, I mean, if we get him, I thought, to me, Brandon Staley is bottom of the barrel. I don't like, people talk about how good he was. Ramsey's like, oh, Staley is so good. Yeah, you know how much talent they had on the Rams defense that year? I mean, you know, talent is the key. You know, you'll see Bum Phillips said about Shula, you know, he could take yours and beat his and beat yours. Yeah, it may be in one little moment, but it's not on a consistent basis. I mean, talent, he could take the talent and raise it a notch. A lot of people can't do that. Coaches. But you need talent. You need talent. He's still in the run, and that's the bottom. That would be like, I would laugh because the Dolphins media made fun of Staley, and even McDaniel had a little cutting comment about him. And I think it would be great if we get him because I want to see how honest the media is. Because what the media does is when someone comes here, they're a genius, and when they leave, they're total bums. But this was a bum before he got here, and so they're going to call him a genius when they call him a bum. I think that'd be kind of interesting, you know, because it seems like there's this whole hopium thing going on with a lot of the media, which kind of bothers me. But Staley's the bottom of the barrel. I mean, he's got experience, but he sucks. Dude, did you see what he did again? He had Hill one-on-one with the guy who ran a 4.6 40 with no safety over the top coverage. Are you like, I mean, you must be doing crack or delusional or something. And he had a guy, it was a backup, who ran a 4.3. So at the end of the game, he finally put him man on Hill and started slowing him down. It's like, where was it at the beginning of the game? I don't know.
Hey,
Sharif, what's going on? Sharif West, that's a darn good name, man. That's a darn good name. Good evening, brother. So I think that would be the bottom of the barrel. But you know, the whole show is going to be about talent and what can we do as far as talent. So guys, I want to put up a graphic here and show you how I didn't put up. This is what we got right now. You know, we have no second safety. Holland, they put him in strong safety. I don't know why. He's the free safety. Whatever, it's PFF. Good stuff, bad stuff. But then you got Baker, who maybe you get rid of, maybe you don't. He doesn't really depends on what role we're going to, you know, what scheme we're going to run. Does he fit well? I like Long Jr., but he can't cover in full range. So you're going to have to develop a scheme to support his coverage. Chubb is going to be out for a long time. I mean, you're talking October, November. That was a brutal injury. What happened?
A lot of our key players are going to be out.
Oh, yeah. Someone was saying that Phillips will be back by week 1. I don't know. Maybe, but he's not going to be 100% even. And then are you going to get Van Ginkel back? Wilkins, is he going to be here? Davis is gone. Davis is replaceable. That knee injury, he was doing so good in 220, and that knee injury kind of just derailed him in 21. It was such a shame. But then you got Sealer. That's it. And then Howard, you moving off of him, he's getting older and older, but he's a cash cow. You can move some of that money and maybe you keep him, you know, but maybe you move off him post-June. You can't move pre-June, post-June, so that money's not coming to you. And then Kohu, people don't like Kohu. I think Kohu's a darn good cornerback if you put him in the right situation. I mean, go back and check my evals. Mid to late clock is where he struggles in man. You can't do that. You know, and then you got Ramsey who's going to be turning 30, and that's where your defense. You know, what else do you really got? Tyndall, Cam Smith. Let's see. But that's a lot of stuff to fill at minus 52 million. then, obviously on the offense, you can see the offensive line. Armstead, is he retiring? Is not. He kind of didn't say he wasn't retiring, but if he does, what does that do for your team? You get a little money, try replacing him. But then if you don't replace him, do you know if he's going to play the whole season? And then you don't got a left guard. There's nobody. Don't tell me Cotton's going to fill that spot. He ain't. Eichenberg's not playing center. Maybe you get Connor, but Connor won't be ready till mid-season. You can't, put him on the books yet. So you got to wait till he's healthy and then get the docs to check him out. And then right guard, you bring Hunt back. Al from 2 yards per carry thinks we're going to get Hunt back, and I pray we do. That's to me even more than Wilkins, and I love Wilkins, but he's younger, and we have a darn hard time picking up those old linemen. And then Jackson, I don't. If you watch Jackson on film, I've been saying that I got a lot of hate, but I was right. He's not good. I mean, he might get better next year, but he's got a long way to go. Smythe is a second backup tight end. You need tight ends, and then you don't have a third wide receiver, and then you got Mostert and Achane, who both injured. Can you depend on them? Let me see. Will, let's go. Hey, yeah, Will, you were saying that 9 months for Phillips and Achilles injury. So basically that ranges it now. Yeah, if all goes perfectly well, but when is he really going to come back? When, is it 9 months? Is it 8 months, 11 months, 10 months? I don't know. And, is he going to be able to come in and start playing every down? Those run downs are going to tax that Achilles. So maybe I'm hoping. I love the kid. I'm praying that he does. But that's you got to hope that it goes the right way, and then he comes back at a fast pace. And what's our schedule going to look like? So, hey Sean, what's going on? Armstead won't charge too much money. Yeah, there is. I don't think he's going to. But you never know, man. Listen. I love Toronto. He's my guy. And some people are like, they see one play or whatever. But this guy's been living with pain for a year and a half. I mean, you don't have to understand the amount of pain he's going through year after year now. And he's on medications, and maybe he just says, you know what? It's too much. This guy was playing with a lot. So maybe he does, maybe not. I don't know. I don't understand the Jackson contract. It was to say, hey, look, I was validated in sticking with this guy and drafting him. That's all it was. You could get dozens. We could have had Moses over with the Ravens for like $5 million a year, like 2 years ago when he left the Jets, and that was what I was banging the table for. So I don't know. Maybe he steps up. Yeah, his pro set pass blocking grade was terrible, and that's what I was trying to get people to understand. You don't have to take PFF for all it's worth. I mean, it is what it is. Their skill sets are very good indicators. The overalls, I don't agree with because they don't take into account the scheme of the team. You might say pass blocking is more valuable than run blocking, but what if you're the Titans? And so I'm not an overall grading system by them, but the skill sets I think are very good. And, you can look and say, oh, look, how many pressures or sacks, but when you're throwing the ball at 2.09 seconds, that doesn't really work as a grading system. But so when you go in there and you see his true pass set, you can see him get handled and beaten with power consistently. There's something going on there. So, he's a backup. Yeah, and you got to remember that even at 68.4, that's based off what he was doing. And what he was, if that clock had been 2.4, 2.5 like the rest of the league, he would have given up more sacks, more pressures, and more other stuff. And so that's even hyperinflated a little bit. What do you guys think?
I think Austin Jackson's a revolving door at right tackle on Tua's blind side, which another, like you said, you hit it nail on the coffin or head on the nail with about Grier just making it about him with the contract. As soon as he did one good game, 2 good games, threw him a contract. And the rest of the season, he didn't really justify that, or the whole season. I really don't think he justified any contract other than proving Grier right. That's what I think this first round pick that we have this year, either going left tackle or center, and who he picks, I think is going to be a big decision going forward.
Oh, huge. But he's in a weird position at 21. We'll get into that in a second. Lucas, what do you think?
With Jackson?
Whatever What do you think about me shaving my beard? I don't know. Whatever you want. You're on the show, dude. You're a co-host.
It will baby face it.
Trying to
I
look
hate
younger.
shaving. I'm just lazy with it.
Oh, I
Sometimes
know.
you'll see me and I'll be clean and everything. But okay, so with Jackson and getting a contract, it's good to have somebody signed, but I think is not somebody that's good for us. He the only reason why he looks good is because of the scheme and what they put together as far as the play calling, and Tua getting the ball out quick. It completely you couldn't get a guy to put his hand down on the ground and run at Tua faster than 2 seconds anyways. He's got the ball out, so you don't even need an offensive lineman half the time, in my opinion. They're getting the ball out so quick, it doesn't even matter who you have in there.
Yeah, and I think that's always been my contention. And in some ways, that kind of sounds like an echo chamber. But if anybody in the comment section thinks that I'm off on that, let me know. Lucas and I, because we've been simpatico on that for a while. Steve, yeah, I think PF, if people don't understand PFF, if you actually go in there, they actually break down from an actual statistic category, many, many things. You can actually go in there and get hard data. And what they do is they have a grading system and they watch the film, and based on what their system is, then they create this value. I really don't like the overall as much. I'm not saying it's terrible, but the skill sets, the individual parts of it, and then the hard data, and you get that with the premium stuff, which is a little bit expensive. But it's worth it. It really is. I've learned so much, not just through them, Pro Football Reference, a bunch of sites. Like I mishmash my stuff, but I agree there with PFF. Amy, what's going on? You join the club the team's not playing in the postseason. Come on, welcome aboard. You went farther than we did, though. So is it Cheetah's Hill still on the contract? Yeah, he'll be. And I think they're going to probably extend his contract maybe because I want to show you. I'm going to put this up.
Curtis, real quick.
Yeah.
I recall, maybe this was just talk or whatever, but I recall Tyreek Hill talking about, he had a couple of years left before he retired, like 2-3 years, and that was like last year. I don't know about it. If
he
that's
changed that
still
though.
the case.
He said, "Oh no, maybe I'll play a little bit longer."
Did he? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he likes the money that he's getting and everything.
Of course, $30 million a year.
If he's got the legs for it and can keep it up and everything, then sure,
and
why not?
You gotta understand, if people don't understand, you'll say, "Oh, the cap, you could do whatever you want with the cap." But what you do is you take salary, and salary can be, if they cut you, that comes back to the team, but they can lock that salary into guaranteed money and then push that back. So if Tyreek says, "Hey, I want to retire at 32," and he looks at his money, he knows that he might get cut or asked to have a hair trim. But then all of a sudden, if Grier goes, "I need money in 24," and then turns his salary into guaranteed money, he might have guaranteed money of like 20 million, 25 million to play that extra year or so. And he's not going to turn that down. You know what I mean? So, I think he understands where it's at. They're going to have to, there's only a few guys they can really manage. You've got X, you've got Chubb, but how can you lock any more in there? You've got Ramsey, you've got Hill, and then you could do Tua. And it looks like Tua is going to get the contract this year. I know that he's going to get it now. I was like, I wasn't sure, but they're going to make it happen because they have no choice.
Ogba's gone, right? Ogba's like, that's
they're going to cut him.
conclusion.
Yeah, they're going to I think they're going to post-June him. I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to cut him. But even if it's pre-June, it's like 13 million, but there's like a 4 or 5 million dead cap hit. And so some of these guys that they're going to cut, it's going to be a dead cap hit. And we got 58 million next year, minus whatever dead hit we get, minus whatever money we're pushing forward. So these next 2 years are very, very tight. And even if you look at 26, we only have about 114 million. I want to get into some other stuff. His performance to decline. Yeah, because he got his behind beat. We ran so many jet sweeps and thrown into those pocket posts where he gets banged. We really weren't setting him up to understand, hey, this guy's almost 30 years old. Let's not bang this guy. And we were riding him as hard as we could to get to where we had to go because they understand what the situation was last year. And, he is going to start getting more and more stuff. He's tough as nails, but look at Waddle too. These guys are smaller guys. And so, anytime you start getting to 30, you start running into problems as far as health. And we're tying big money to these guys. So look at this. This is our roster right now. Negative 52. Okay. You got negative 52 million, 46 guys on the roster. But really, out of that 46, you have only 22 quality players. And some of those quality players are like your long snapper, like Ferguson, Skylar Thompson, who's your third string quarterback. Maybe you want to say Mike White, your backup quarterback. I mean, you got the only guys you really, really, really can depend on is Hill, Ramsey. Chubb's going to be out for a while. Howard's talented, but he's going downhill. But you still got to consider him. Tua, whether you like him or not, he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the league, even if you want to put him at 15, whatever. Tehran, but he's banged up. Agba's gone. Baker, but do you get rid of him? Keep him. Sealer, obviously he's a guy. Waddle, but he's a free agent next year. David Long Jr., he's a guy you can restructure, gets a little bit of money from him. Mike White, Cam Smith, do you bank on him? There was talk about it. One of his red flags was character and having issues with coaches, I believe. And then, you see EZ, you're going to bank on him, Cotton, Kohu, but, you got to get the right system to fit him. Tana ain't nobody. Keon Smith, forget about him. Anthony Schwartz. Then you do Durham Smythe. He's a guy you can count on, but he's a backup. Austin Jackson, unless he takes a big step forward, he's not a guy. Sanders, he's a kicker. Phillips, he's injured. Maybe comes back September, maybe October. Alec Ingold, I like, but he's a 450 snap guy, unless you change his scheme to more banging scheme. Wilson, he's not a guy. He's been injured. He's not really great. He's okay. Raheem Mostert, but he's going to be 32, 33. Duke Riley, he's a guy, but he's a backup. He's not your starter. You can see what happens in the starting position. Keon Crossan, he's going to get cut. He's not a guy. Holland, obviously free agent next year. Liam Eichenberg is never going to be. Maybe 5 years from now. I don't know, but not now. Wilson's gone. And then you go down the line. Julian Hill, maybe down the road. But the rest of these guys, Boner, maybe you saw a little snap from him at the end of the season. And then Brandon Peely, but I don't know if he's going to be ready physically. So that's your whole roster right now at minus 52 million. And that's not comforting, man. That's not comforting. And I'm going to break it down even more after this. I'll say, Sean, what's going on? Hey, Sean, what's going on, brother? What's up, guys? Let's not overlook that our injuries were a little bit out of the ordinary, in my opinion. I get it's football and his injuries, but it's a little excessive. I totally agree. But when you add guys like Tehran, who's got a long injury history, you're riding with X, who's always injured. You got Chubb, who you sign him to a mega contract and multiple picks, and he's got an injury history. Phillips, I love him to death, but he's got an injury history. You got two small receivers. And then you got Mostert, who's one of your best players, but a guy's like 32, 33, and he's always got injuries. And so, we got unlucky with Connor. We got unlucky with Hunt a little bit, but we had to bring Hunt in a little quicker than we wanted because we were afraid of the guys we were facing, and we didn't want Jones or Cotton over there, so we had to rush him back, and he repulled it. And so while there is, an area where we got unlucky, look at Vrabel with the Titans the year they went to the conference championship. They had 90 guys on the roster that year because so many guys went to IR. And if you go and check back, do a little study on that history, you can see they were able to overcome it because there was guys underneath. Right. There was a little bit more coherency in what was being done. And now they didn't win it, because they had Tannehill, but still to get there and to win the conference, and to get to the conference championship. And I think even Henry was injured during that season. So we got a little unlucky, but remember Grier said, injuries, this part of the thing. Oh, people are concerned about my depth on the offensive line. Well, anybody who's got, is not dead should have known Cotton is not a guy for you. Eichenberg's not a guy for you. Jones doesn't fit your scheme. Wynn is always, we assigned Wynn, who's always injured. I said he's going to get injured. You're an idiot. You don't. And he got injured. Why? Because he's always been injured. If he's been always injured, he's going to get injured again. So, Grier made some very risky. He went riverboat and he went craps. He snaked out, and it was a little unlucky. But you got to mitigate that stuff by getting as many healthy guys around these injury guys as you can, and he didn't do that. So I gotta say he got unlucky, but he didn't really choose smart. Not just it's. It seems like we might clean the house soon. Yeah, probably. If this season doesn't pan out, you got to clean house. But what does cleaning house mean? We were told in 2019, and I wasn't as savvy back then. We were told we were cleaning house. I was a big Grier fan. I was like, all right, man, yeah. Adam Gase and Tannenbaum, they screwed us up. Ross wants to win. He was a bit of a nutcase, but he said, hey, look, it's insanity to repeat the same thing over and over again. I'm out. I'm not a part of this. Chris Grier's taken over. Chris Grier set up. He said, I want to build young. I want to build with draft picks. I want to build for the long haul. I want to build right. And he traded away Tunsil, and he got all those picks. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And then he drafted some players, and I was like, okay, I'll see how it goes. And then we had the problems year 2 with rushing to it, and then the problems with Flores, and then we had to break everything apart. And then by year 4 of his program, it's like, we got to win now. And we got a guy was in the booth and a run coordinator, and then he just started spending like a drunk sailor. Hey, we'll grab Eichenberg for a second and third. Hey, here's a second, just kept throwing picks at everything. And then it went crazy. So, but we never really cleaned house. And cleaning house would have been Ross stays out, which he didn't. He went to the podium when Flores was being fired, and he said, we're in a search for a coach, and Tua's our guy, unless the coach we're looking for wants him. But he had Brady and Peyton in the background. He was lying to us, and he had spent his time undermining the coach, was what he'd always done, because he comes from a business background. And then we didn't get rid of the scouts who kept making the same stupid picks for years. So cleaning the house would be if we could have got a guy like Jim Harbaugh come in and said, listen, Ross, I love you. I'm going to do my best to take care of this business, but I don't want to talk to you no more. Just write the checks and come show up when we win. I'm getting rid of this coaching staff. I'm getting rid of the GM. I'm going to fire a bunch of scouts. I'm going to start totally fresh. It's going to take 2 or 3 seasons for us to rebuild this thing the right way, and then we're going to start rocking and rolling. That's what we got to do. Totally clean house. But what we'll end up probably doing is find a scapegoat at the end of 24 if things don't work out. And Chris Grier will say, well, I was just really kind of doing what the coaches want, and this is what they wanted. And so I'm going to start again with somebody else, and we'll go into the 4th incarnation with Chris Grier, and it will really restart again if we fail.
Chris, can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy. I've been talking for a while. It's all you.
No, you're good. But just on Grier, so I heard the reason why Ross is a little hesitant to fire him because the Brian Flores lawsuit is still out there. And he doesn't want Grier to add on to that.
Oh, I bet. That's that. Maybe. I could see it. Listen. What a tangled web we weave when we first practice to deceive. Around the Gase time, all we heard was Ross was not the right owner, and then somehow the media wheels turned when he totally screwed over Flores and the team, working in the background, and even Tua and all this. All of a sudden, we never even heard about that whole thing of lying to us to our face. It was Ross is a good guy. He writes all kinds of checks, and Grier's just a good guy, and dead bodies in the basement, Flores. And then, it was such a weird media push that I can't explain it. So anything's possible.
Hey, so real quick. So I guess I didn't realize, but as far as the NFL is concerned, that's a done deal, with Flores and everything. But I guess on as far as a legal lawsuit, that's still open. That's still going.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I kind of just I just figured.
I think
I'd be 110 by the time thing gets settled, so I didn't care.
That's true. That I'm sure they're just going to rack up the legal fees and make it as painful as expensive as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, we have to understand that's what we got here. Nothing. It's Transformers. It's more than meets the eye. Nothing you see is what you see. There's no 2 ways about it. I mean, listen, there was a time that if Ross got up there and lied to our faces and had Peyton and Brady in the background, it would be nonstop coverage by the local media. They're like, how did this guy do this? And it was like crickets. And I was like, whoa, that's really strange. How is that not something that's a big deal? And it was all just Flores dead bodies, poor Tua, McDaniel's coming in to heal poor Tua. And it was just crazy. It was total bogusness.
I think everyone was just so excited to do good again that they didn't want the whole team to blow apart already.
They're just hoping and praying. They're keeping their eyes. It's like, what's that movie, the Netflix movie with Sandra Bullock? She's got her eyes covered, just.
Oh, yeah, with the monsters you can't look at.
Yeah.
Man,
you die or whatever from it. It's like, oh, we're just going to keep following along, it'd be okay,
It's weird. I feel like the whole coverage cycle for the last 4 or 5 years has been something like I don't really remember. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think that there's a lot. Oh, go ahead.
Could be better. Like you all, can't wait the next season. Wikipedia, lots of positive changes for us Mafia already taking effect in-house. Always appreciate it. Thank you, sister. You're a Bills fan, but you do all right for us, man. You're real kind. You're kind. So I sort of hope the best for you guys. I don't know. I mean, if we're in it, I don't. And if we're not, then I will. But there's so many good Bills fans that I've met. So hopefully you do well, sort of. Anyway, I'm sorry, Lucas. What were you saying?
Oh no, it's all good. I was thinking that I've seen a couple like old tweets. I don't know how I've come across them, but like old tweets from some of the local beat writers and the personalities and everything that are completely contrary to what they're saying now. And it's funny, like that they're just going along with the narrative, because they used to have it right,
Yeah.
and somehow they got sidetracked. I don't know.
The journalism used to put people's feet to the fire. It doesn't seem to do that.
Right.
Grier has 1 hit on his last 8 picks. I don't know if that number is correct, but it's very close. If it's not correct, it's very close. People forget, Yeah.
And you do have to blame some of that on Ross for losing us the first and the third this year. So.
So do you think Grier's trying to take the whole ship down? No, I think he's doing his best to try to keep his job. But, for him, he's in a desperate – and look, Stephen Ross, I think, is a real fan of the Dolphins. I think he really, really wants to win. But, a lot of fans don't understand. And I'm not saying I'm totally in on it, but I went to military school at 6 years old. If I didn't salute, I had to do push-ups. And then from there, I started playing Pee Wee football like 7, 8. I come from a military family, a German family. It was very hard. I had almost gangrene in my leg because I was screwed it up. My mother went on vacation. And I go to the hospital. She's like, no. And she just did a whole poultice thing in my leg. I just come from a very hard style of being raised. And we have people that, they have their business jobs, their corporate jobs or whatever, and they think that's the mindset for football. It's not. It's discipline. It's pseudo war. It's a warrior sport. You have to have, like I was watching a general the other day talk, and he said, what's discipline? How do you get discipline? He says, unless you've seen discipline, you can't come in and spot when discipline is wrong. It's something beyond just your obvious ways of viewing things when you're dealing with certain kind of actions. So, being disciplined at your job and making sure the staples are in the right place and you've done all your emails for the day, that's one thing. When your knee's swollen up and you got to take the next shot and you can't sleep the night before and you got to wake up and you got to play and go against the guy who's got the report that your knee is bad and he's purposely hitting you in the knee with his knee and they're cutting you and doing all this stuff. How do you keep discipline? It's totally different in this environment. Same with the military, same with fighting, same with very violent acts and sports to create this discipline. And a lot of fans in the media, and back to Stephen Ross, who comes from a business side, he doesn't understand it. There's got to be a level of honor. There's got to be a level of code. There's got to be this certain concept within the Warriors environment to make it thrive and to keep that discipline. And if you don't got that, there's a tendency for it to unravel and not to be in the trial by fire. I had a video saved here, and it was a football player going over it. I think, who was it? I can't. It was so great. And he was saying, he's like, it was Tom Brady. He was on Pat McAfee. And he was saying, he's like, listen, people makes this all kind of stuff like me against Bill. Bill was on my behind because he wanted me to be better. And he says, but my teammates then, when he was on my behind, they would expect me to be at a certain level, but we all were in there fighting to raise our level. And we had to be. When you go play for the Super Bowl and the fans are looking at you and everyone's out to get you and the reporters are after you, if you're not on your game, if you're not disciplined, if you're not totally focused, then you're going to crumble. You're more likely to crumble at those higher and higher levels. And if you look at the Dolphins, why do they crumble? Well, you could just say, hey, it's injuries. You could just say that, and well, that's it. But it's more than that. Other teams have injuries. Maybe this year we had a little bit more. What about last year? What about the year before that? What about the year before that? And so at a certain point, there is this weakness. And I do think Flores is a very disciplined guy. I mean, look how he turned the team around in 2019. And you can see 2020, they were tops in the league in discipline. And it kind of fell the year after that, but it was all disintegrating after that. Look at Gase and all that, the hands in the pot then, and before that, and before that, and before that. And so for me, Ross is a fan of the Dolphins. He wants to win. He just doesn't. He cannot understand football at its most elemental phase. He cannot understand the Warrior. And, it's not to say these guys, well, they'll do the business thing at a certain point, but the weight of it, the magnitude, the foundation has to be honor and a warrior's code and a warrior's discipline. And it's not instilled there because the owner doesn't understand it, because he's always involved. And then the GM doesn't understand it because the GM cuts the coaches all the time. He did it with Rashad Jones and Micah Fitzpatrick, and he always gets in there telling people they got to play their players. He got Van Noy to get spited at Flores. He didn't. Well, look, all you had to say, hey, look, Fangio, I want this guy on the team. I didn't consult you, but I'm letting you know he's coming down to the practice field. He could have done that. Just pick up the phone, but he didn't. It's like a passive-aggressive thing. He just sent the guy on the field. Fangio goes, what? Who's this guy? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to say, hey, you know what? I'm consulting because I'm the boss. But when you do that, that is a petty, passive-aggressive mindset. And when you got that filtering down, it's not good. And I think that's the big problem with Ross and Grier. They're just suits. Find a franchise QB, easy pick. It's not easy, man. As the Dolphins, we've looked forever, man. You could say get rid of Tua, but look at all the quarterbacks before Tua. It's not easy. I'm not saying Tua is our guy, but we could do a lot worse. What do you guys think?
It'd be interesting if we could actually get a good line in front of him and give him some time to throw. But I think he's average. His arm's average. He has good pocket presence, but he can't scramble. I think you need a mobile QB to really beat those fast defensive ends, because the defensive ends and linebackers are just going to keep getting faster and faster. And Tua, for whatever reason,
what happened?
Everyone to scramble, and it's just like, God. Oh, I must have cut out.
That's okay. As long as it wasn't me. It's always me.
Yeah, no, you're good now.
Glad it was you. Keep going, brother.
What part did it cut out at?
You were talking about the linebackers getting faster and faster, and DN's getting faster and faster.
Yeah, every important down to is scrambling and trips or gets sacked, and it's become a problem at this point.
Now, this is a really big topic, and I think I'd like to get into it at another point because, I went to school to be a teacher, and I was in coaching a little bit, and now I'm a parent. There's a whole nature versus nurture, and I believe that there is like a ceiling and a floor of how much a person can grow in things, but how much of Tua that we see right now is poor nurturing versus what's his actual nature. And I'm not saying I have any, firm foot in the ground on that, but it is really a high level thinking process to get into understanding what you can do with a person. And my belief is that the framework around him has been some of the worst I've ever seen for a quarterback drafted that high. Not the worst, but some of the worst. So I don't know. Like, if you gave Tua as we said, an offensive line and just an interior. And that's the pressure that really gets to him the most. And you gave him an interior run game. How much confidence would that instill in him? I don't know. Maybe it's not enough. He does seem a little nervous to me, but I didn't really watch him in college. So I don't know. When he came here, from the point he came here, when he was inserted, it was such an awkward insert. He didn't know the playbook well enough. He wasn't healthy. Why was he installed? His own family's like, you barely played and they got you starting, so I don't know. I see the kid's traits. I do see some weaknesses in his intestinal fortitude, but I know it's been curtailed by a very poor setup.
I was a big Tua supporter up until this year too, but these last 4 games kind of sealed the deal for me, and I can't see us winning any meaningful Super Bowl championship level games with him at quarterback. Unfortunately, he just seems to make the wrong decisions at the wrong time.
Yeah, there's elements of that, but so look at Mayfield, look at Goff, you can even, Favre was only a 1-year deal, but even look at Steve Young. I'm not saying he is the guy, but if you're a DC and all these guys are going to do is run to the edge, throw screens, throw pocket pass, go deep, and maybe an out.
Right.
I mean, your job is so easy. You can run nickel all day. You can watch the numbers, the percentages of where they're going to go. You watch and film all week. You kind of get a tell of where these guys are going. You could see, when they bring out certain personnel packages.
Way too predictable.
Way. If when you're an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, there's a tension that's got to be created. And that tension's got to start from the line of scrimmage and go to the end zone. And it has to go from sideline to sideline, from center to sideline. So when you're creating 4 points of tension and you have 11 guys to cover that vast number, I used to remember the yards, it becomes a very hard target. And once you get defenses reacting, then you have initiative. But too often, defenses were able to act, able to set the table, and we created no tension. All our tension was perimeter and then deep and 15 yards. And you got to create tension in the A and B gaps and stuff. So I don't know. We lost Scotty. Maybe I chased him away.
Oh.
Anyway, let me just move. I'm sorry.
Go, real quick. I haven't heard anybody really talk about this, and it doesn't really matter ultimately when it comes down to things. But you see other quarterbacks, at the a 4th down that fails or a 3rd down that fails, and they have to kick on a 4th down or something like that. And Brady would go and slam the tablet on the ground, and people throw their helmets, and I know you get a fine for that and everything. I never see that from Tua, and it bothers me. It doesn't. He doesn't show enough emotion that he is pissed off that something happened that he didn't like. I know he doesn't like that. Maybe that's his culture and his upbringing and everything to play it cool. But I finally just put it in my head a couple weeks ago and hadn't thought of it since, because we're not in the equation anymore for this year. But I wanted to share that. What do you think about that? Is that, I don't think it actually matters, but maybe it does to some other players. That they're like, he's really pissed off right now. I screwed up that play. Like I gotta do better. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think there's an element of truth there, but I don't think it's hard coded. But every unit needs certain types. You need the emotional spark plug. You need the enforcer within that unit. And, it's best to have it as the quarterback. Dan Marino, how he was. Right. I don't know if it's it has to be the quarterback or whatever. My chair is sinking over here. I'm getting small. I'm shrinking. It's terrible. So,
you're all good. There you go.
So, I don't know. I think there's a truth to it. I think he's a nice guy. was thinking, I think this chair's broke. Anyway, so I think he's a nice guy. I think that he doesn't have to be that way. I think it could help, but you can't be disingenuous to who you are too.
Right.
And I think that if you had, and we don't know how he's acting on the side, so
players do go to bat for him and say that he holds them accountable and everything. But as you're walking off the field, I want you to, it's not a good thing to curse and things like that, but I want you to be upset like that, you missed something, or somebody else did, there's got to be some passion in it.
There's an element of that discipline. There's got to be fear. We all talk about McDaniel being the nice guy. And that's all well and good. That's what you want. But you got kids. You're their friend or you're their parent. You need fear is a very useful tool, man. You've got even go into these the pits inside New York Stock Exchange. You know how brutal that stuff is? And that's like just money. It's not physicality. So there's got to be an element of fear. I don't know, but it's something to think about. I think we could think about that.
Yeah.
So we get this in these.
Well, it was kind of another like we can come back to it another time or another video. It just with the DC. I'm thinking what the reports are that he's going to be a new guy. I didn't mention this earlier, and it seems like more of like a new school guy. Everybody's saying new school, old school, and that's why Fangio's out.
He's from the Ravens. He's a player? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know his personality well enough.
I'm thinking at least that, if I don't know. I'm speculating. Maybe somebody else can chime in the chat and everything.
Yeah, let us know.
I'm thinking he's a player, and at least will be able to identify with the players a little bit better than what Fangio did. So.
Maybe, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it could go either way.
Yeah, you could say whatever you want about Fangio, but that defense held it together way better than the offense, and the offense is the coach, the friendly guy.
Yeah. They're all mad at having one of their best years in a long time. And they're blaming this guy, but hey, you just however many people just got however many sacks, and they're posting on X about it. Get out of here. I was upset about that.
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard unless you're in there, because you could be too soft and you could be too hard. There's got to be like it's a balance, But I do believe that a little bit of fear is good. In Dad, what's going on, brother? Jackson Powers Johnson. I think he's going to fall to us. I think Fuaga is not. I think there's going to be a big run. From about 7 to 20 on offensive linemen, like a big run. I think maybe Jackson Powers Johnson falls to us. And from what I've seen, I like he had the hamstring injury, but they don't think that's like a big red flag. But he looks good, man. He's like 334, strong upper body. His lower body, I got to dig into him a little bit more. He's more upper body than lower body. It depends, so I'll be looking into him. Hold on a second. Sean Payton, that was news to me. What was Payton's role?
I tried to answer that in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Ross had Payton and Brady ready to take over until Flores put out his thing. So when he did the announcement to fire Flores and he says, we're looking for a coach and Tua's our guy, in reality, he had Brady and Payton in the background. And Payton, I guess just before that, had said Tua's no good. So it was like the setup to move Tua out. And so Ross was lying to us. He was actually going behind Flores' back to hire Payton. And so it was a whole scam job. That's like, I'm sorry, what? Keep going.
And that's what cost us the first from last year or the year before? It was last year.
And this year we lose a third, I think.
The third this coming year. Yeah. That's why we don't have a third this year.
Yeah, I agree. As a reporter, you lose access if you don't play ball. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, she's on that. She's dead right.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Let me see. I'm sorry. I'm catching up, guys. Hell yeah. That's exactly how the Steelers D was exhibiting play, load chops, knee busting. Yeah, but it's part of, you and I would say, hey, but that's the way it's played. That's the way everything's played. Why do you think they hide all these injuries? It's not for gambling a little bit. It's because the other guy on the other side knows. If I'm going against you and I know you got a hurt knee, dude, I'm hitting that knee. I did that in college. I did that in high school. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, we knew that stuff. I would have a guy and say, hey, look, I saw this guy. He's walking off, his ankle's gimpy. You hit it. So it's part of the game. You do it in fighting. Every
boxer, MMA fighter, you know that the guy broke his hand or something like that. He's not going to throw from that side. Like,
it's brutal. It's winning. It's just the way it is, and that's why the discipline we have too many people that are fans that, there's a famous saying that most people don't perceive, they project. And that's the hardest part in life and in evaluation. You look at something and you look at it from your own viewpoint. And then from that viewpoint, you begin projecting what is. But the perception is really what you're trying to do. And in order to perceive, you have to understand what you're evaluating at a very nuanced level. And the violence, we love the violence. That's what this game is about. The violence, hurting, breaking somebody to win. That's the game. So when you got, I want a guy, he wants to be more sensitive to the players and stuff. Oh, okay. But how does that play out when you got another guy who's not sensitive and the team isn't sensitive and they're going against you as sensitive?
And the other 31 teams want to break your ankles.
Oh, come on. This is reality, and it's not a bad thing. It's beautiful. I loved it. I never played the highest level. I played junior college a little bit, played before that, played after and stuff. I love getting hit and hurting people and getting and hitting people is fun. We all loved it. At the end of the game, we all loved it. It was beautiful.
And everybody gets a chance. So it's you don't take it personally. Everybody gets a chance.
It's part of the beauty of it. It is a masochism. If you love the game of football to play it, you're sort of masochistic. I couldn't play linebacker. Every time I'd hit somebody in linebacker, my head would hurt. But you put me in running back, I never got hurt. I loved hitting people. I can't explain it. I enjoy. I had a very bad childhood, and then the anger I had would just expel from me when people would hit me. I love getting hit. I love hitting back. Don't get me wrong. So there's a masochistic level for the game until Dolphins fix the lines. The December and the discipline, the fear of losing, the fear of coach, fear of failure, fear. There's got to be a fear, a hunger, a fear, and a physicality. That's what makes great teams. That's why you don't get the December swoon and you don't have the playoff swoon. So my gut is, oh, yeah. Hey, what's going on? Hey, listen, the Dolphins realtor, his daughter, she's 4 years old, is finished a chemotherapy. And I'm not going to talk about it too much because my eye's going to water up, man. So please pray for him and his daughter. That is something very serious. I think about that often, man. That's terrible, dude. And I'm so happy for you. I pray all the time for you. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'm going to start getting teared up. What was that? A second. Sorry. There's been a lot of stuff going on in my family. I can't even imagine that with my kid. So congrats that she's doing well. All right. So Dolphins should be looking for a soft rebuild. Yeah, probably a hard rebuild, I think. You got to get, I'd say if we had a really good GM and we really were trying to win, we would cue in players that were going to be here for the next 5 to 6 to 7 years. And we would start rebuilding and rebuild the way Grier thought originally. The way Grier came out with his philosophy was the right way to do things. He missed on picks and all that stuff. You could overcome that. Like he could have overcame the miss on Noah and the miss on Jackson. But you trade back, you acquire picks, you keep on shooting, you keep on building. Kind of what they did with the Pittsburgh Steelers years ago with Cowher.
He's great at dealing like that, moving back and making picks. The problem is jumping up or trading, second and thirds and things like
Oh
that.
yeah,
He gets buried in those. He needs to stop it with
wastes too
those.
many picks. He wastes too many picks.
Just
So
real quick, along the lines of the December thing, like I can't say this as my most optimistic time of any the past couple of years of being a Dolphins fan and everything. The past couple of years, but it's up there. When we went 5 out of 9 or whatever with Flores, like the last
Oh, yeah.
9 games, we won 5 of them, after getting blown out 50-0 or whatever it was the first 4 games.
Yep.
Remember
that New England victory in 2019, how beautiful that was?
And that was so important to them, like that they weren't just blowing it off, because they were fighting for home field advantage, if I remember correctly, and we wanted it more. We showed them we wanted it more that day.
Yeah,
that was huge. And so I remember being more optimistic about our team at that point than I can't say any other time, but that's up there.
Oh, that was I was so proud. That's why that's part of the reason why I was just like, I was really upset with what had happened in the middle of 2020. 2019 was the victory over the New England. Something happened. I don't know. I was answering. Oh, I'm sorry, brother. I'm like a monkey, can only do one thing at a time. So maybe I missed something. Sorry about that. Let's see. Do you think he was restricted from being mobile in the offense? So you talk about Tua? Maybe. I think that there was a lot riding on his health this season from an optic standpoint for the Dolphins and for Tua. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe. See, in a dad, mobile or not, the teams that win championships have good. Oh, yes. Yeah. Have a good O-line and run inside and have a tight end. And then you have the defense and all the rest. But the core of your physicality is your tight end and your offensive line. And if you got an H-back or a fullback or something. Oh, I see. Yeah. But hey, now Tom Brady, if you look at Tom Brady, when he was under pressure, he had one of the worst collapses of his quarterback rating. It was like 110 or 105, went down to 60. And pressure affects everybody, even the great Tom Brady. We saw it with look, Goff. Goff, Love, Purdy, and who was the other guy? What's his name? The guy was a Cleveland. What's his name? What's his name? The quarterback from Cleveland that went to Tampa Bay. I can't think of his name right now. I'm getting tired.
Oh, Baker.
Yeah. And these are not tough like quarterbacks, but you give them the right teams, offenses. You create that tension. 4-point tension. That's what you got to do. 4-point tension. It's like basic. That's like football 101. It's not like rocket science. Jessica, Tua has 3 big issues. He's short, doesn't have a strong arm, and is not overly mobile. He's not unmobile. He's more mobile than Breeze. He's got about the same arm as Breeze, and I think he's taller than Breeze. Breeze was his platform hygiene was unprecedented. It was immaculate, and he really could read really well. And there was stuff but I don't think that really holds him back. I really don't. Up the gut runs were completely cut off injuries. They were off the board even before that. We sort of could get it because if you go over and you look at what we had, Tehran's not a drive blocker. He's a zone stretch guy, shield blocker. And then Wynn wasn't a drive blocker. Cotton's not a drive blocker. Eichenberg's not a drive. So that left guard spot was always a weakness for drive blocking. But you did have Connor and you did have Hunt, and those guys were able to pry things open, kind of like we saw in New England. But Jackson's not a drive blocker, and then we have no tight ends. And Ingold is not – none of those guys are good run blockers. And so you could get some stuff, but you weren't able to bully. And a lot of the stuff we did was against past defenses. If you notice, look what happened in the Titans game. That second to last drive, they came out in a 4-3. We couldn't call audibles to get out of that. And so we ran. We were running okay when they were playing nickels all game. We were doing actually okay. And then in that critical drive, they rolled out their 4-3, and then we couldn't audible out of it into a pass. And we went to run against it. We were destroyed. And so, in a sense, it's true, but it's bigger than that. We would never be able to qualify in the key moments with the unit that we have in totality, from blockers on the line and secondary blockers, to do what we needed to do, in my opinion. So I agree, but more think that it was that. Jessica. Let me move on. I saw one here. I want to check. Like Greasy was. Yeah, Greasy was always yelling. It's football. If you're crying in your handkerchief over somebody yelling at you, then there's something wrong. As long as it's not vicious and it's about success, they hated Shula to start off with, but then they began to love him when he had success. Let's see. Warner. Oh yeah, Kurt Warner was like Christian. He was always yelling too. Yeah. Let's see. Somebody else had something. I don't know what happened. Oh, don't worry about it, brother. It happens to me all the time. It's my show. Sorry, Skylar. Don't worry about it. If you get back, man. No worries. We'll have you on next week. Whoever wants to come on, man, come on. Foles actually assaulted teammates. Did he really? Somebody tell me if that's true or not. Who was the last center to go in the first round? I don't know. I got to check that. I should know that. That's good. That's a good question. I think Pouncey was ours from 2012, 11?
12, I think.
Yeah. But Bill Walsh was very hard. He was the quiet guy, but you see the guy's face? He was like, I mean, look at what's his face? Gruden. Everyone's like, oh, Gruden and Carr, they don't get along. Carr misses him, loves him. This is the problem with the projection versus perception. What do you think the military? Do you think the military is like, come on, please go over the wall? I really need you to. I know, it's a hard day for you and you're sensitive. And no, man, it's not how it works, dude. And it's not war, but it's like really close. It's really, really close. McVay's very hard. Oh, yeah, he's screaming like a madman. Only when he talks. Last time there was Titman, 43, which was surprising because everyone thought Schmitz would be the first off the line. Thank you. Smart guy. I can't remember these guys. Oh, Lindenbaum was taken by the Ravens. Yeah, I think he was. And he's doing pretty good, actually. Let me see. I saw something up here. Oh, man. Yeah, man. 100%. I told my family about it. I told my kids. I said, you guys better be grateful. Yeah, 100%. Frustrated with the way he ran the defense. Oh, somebody said Vic sucks. I think I said somebody say, I can't find it. Said Vic sucks. If his defense is passe, I think half the league uses his philosophies. Rams use his philosophies, and even when they won the Super Bowl, that Ramsey was in. So I disagree with that. It's a discussion. Maybe his personality's passe, but his defense isn't. And when you understand something too, that Flores' defense was way less complicated and was able to inject people in because they were playing man. But remember what it was like when you didn't have two-man corners that couldn't cover. And so it's very hard to find man cover guys. But when you have a Fangio system that relies more on intelligence and understanding and awareness, you have a bigger resume to find guys later in the rounds to play that system. And so I disagree on that Fangio's passe. And we'll find out this year. He has all the talent in the world. And we'll see. I think he's going to have an amazing – I think this might be his best defense ever because he's going to have more talent than he's ever had. Let's see. So I don't know. Grier is here this year, though. Yeah, Grier is here. He's going to be here this year, next year, and maybe the year. I don't think Ross will move on from him. He just can't. He's 83. And what's he going to do? Start all that all over again? Yeah, here it is. Dave. Hey, what's going on, Dave? Sorry for disagreeing with you on this one. I don't think so, though. I think when somebody actually posted on Twitter, they compared Frazier and Fangio. But you go look at what Fangio's had to deal with as far as offensive outputs. His defense is not the Flores defense. Now, Flores' defense is to suffocate and to really stymie you. But then there's holes in that. And then there's talent issues, acquiring the players needed. With Fangio's system, it's about, hey, we're going to got an offense that can put points on. I'm going to dial up like we saw a couple of good blitzes along the way. We'll kind of get some turnovers. We're going to limit you. And then in that close kind of game, then I'm going to take it over the top. But the preference is to have an offense that keeps you ahead and you play where the team isn't ahead or close, and then it forces them to pass. And Fangio's defense is a pass-first defense, but it's intellectually driven. And if you look at Boyer's system, he basically had the same team as last year. He aired Ramsey for half the season, but then Ramsey got dinged. Holland was out for a bunch. X was out and damaged. He lost his ends, but we still outpaced our defense from last year and broke a team record for sacks. So I don't agree on that. I agree that maybe his personality needs to change. But I'm not really, I don't think so. But I'm going to dig more into that. I'll have to consider that more. Dude, that broke my heart. My friend was a Ravens fan, and we were playing Madden football all year, building up to that moment. And then we went out like a crying little baby, man. That broke my heart. I kind of like, a lot of my like crazy fandom kind of dropped after that. I felt very unhopeful after that. I'm sorry, guys. There's a lot of great comments here. I'm not getting them to all.
Comments are awesome.
Excuse me, Curtis. J17 is better under pressure. Check again by PF Go. I didn't know I picked that one. Let's see. Do you think? Well, I think that. Look, Waddle's a good player, but you spent 2 firsts. Hill's a good player. You spent almost the whole draft, and you got $30 million locked in. That's a lot for the receiving group, man. I mean, go look at what the rest, like the Lions, they've got one of the top 5. I mean, they're not too far down from us, and they didn't spend crazy picks to get their receivers. I think that we really went a very avant-garde route. I was excited. The leverage that was created, when you have Waddle and Hill, you said leverage that I don't think I've ever seen. And you can see how it pays dividends with the offensive line we have to what we were able to do in many situations. But you could see ultimately the game comes down to the A and B gaps. You've got to pass, protect, and run in the A and B gaps and threaten the short, middle A and B areas with your tight ends. And we weren't able to do that. So in essence, I think we went way too hot and heavy on the skills. We tested 100 years of tried and true football knowledge and foundational principles, and then Grier was proved to be wrong. Would you trade Hill? I mean, look, let's say now, no, you have no choice. If you trade Hill, this whole thing will turn into a bloodbath. But if you hired me to take over, oh, yeah, I probably would trade Hill. I would trade a bunch of stuff pieces that if anybody was like 28 years old, I would get rid of them all over. I'd include Wilkinson. I'd tag him and trade him and do something. And I would start all over again and start building through the trenches. And I'd even trade back on some picks, and I would build slowly like Grier wanted to start off with. But if you move Hill out, Waddle will not set the leverage like Hill. And if you're left with Waddle alone, you're going to see the cracks in this design more than you would ever expect. It's Hill sets it at another level, a way different level than Waddle. It's not to say Waddle's bad. He's very good, but he just doesn't have that same skill set to that degree. And so if you don't have both of these guys out there, that means the emphasis is on your blocking, and that is very scary times. Hill, Ramsey, and Samuels were shot. Oh, totally. And that's going to lock us into when they're older. And then they'll be broken down and injured and hurting us in 25, 26, and maybe beyond. Grier has no choice. He's got to boost this cap in major ways, because you're not going to have – look at all the talent we had last year, and that talent is going to be gone. Some of it's not going to come to midseason. What are you going to do to reinflate this thing? And then you're going to have to contend with better teams, maybe a harder schedule. So, yeah, he's going to definitely do it. No. Tehran could. Hunt could. Hunt definitely could. And Connor could. Yeah, all those three could. No one else. No one else would even be backups on the rest of the team. Maybe not even Jackson. No, not even Jackson, in my opinion. So yeah. Also, Skylar, Fangio's biggest flaw of all was refusing to play Ogba the last game when we had literally no depth at all. Could have helped a lot. Maybe. I never thought of that, but maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say, because if you watch Ogba, when you put him outside in that stand-up, man, he's not meant to be there. And he's slow compared to the other guys. And, we held them to what? What did we hold them to? 17, I think. We hold KC to 17, right? In the playoff game. So I can't fault what he did on the defensive side. So maybe. Who did Sperano make cry? Oh, I don't know, but he was hard. He was very hard, but they respected him. He was definitely hard. I don't know. He made cry.
If there's an example of somebody showing passion on the field that endears you, that you see that guy, even good or bad, he would run out on the field and, screaming, yeah, like in the face of the players, when they made a good play, like if they got a touchdown, he's like right there,
But he would scream at people. He was very into discipline. He was more of the warrior side. I don't know. I know Shula made people cry. I know most of these coaches, that are very tough. You should even seen there was a great interview with Lawrence Taylor, how Parcells treated him. He's like, listen, you fire me, trade me, get me off this team. And because he was like, trying to drive him, because you're trying to motivate these guys. So I don't know. I got to check it. Sperano was beloved, was very beloved. Let's see, Ravens center, I think. Only 4 centers were drafted in the first round. Some good stuff here.
Comments are great.
Yeah, I wish I get them. Yeah, strong. Some really good stuff here. Wow. Yeah, he is. But you got an injured guy, an injury history. He's 32, 33, and you got Achane. So I love Mostert. I think he's one of my favorite players in a long, long time. But it concerns me that he's going to be 33. Hey, Guillermo. Probably not saying it right still. What if you trade Hill to get something to complement Waddle in a similar way, whether in a draft range? Yeah, it's possible. But, teams going to have to take on $30 million contract. And then you would – so if you check the leverage, okay, you got Hill, you got Waddle, those two of them, if you have one guy on one side, all you do is you rotate. If you notice what happened was when Waddle was out, Hill kind of started getting slowed down because all you do is you just rotate your safety. Some of these guys didn't do it because they were idiots. But if you have half a brain, you just always rotate your safety to whatever side Hill's on or Waddle if the other guy's not there. And then you can compress the other side. You take that other safety and then you bring him down. And then he can compress things. But when you have Waddle and Hill, you got to play too high safety. And once you play too high safety, and then you march them back a little bit farther because you fear their speed, that actually relieves tension on the line of scrimmage. And once you create a relieve tension on the line of scrimmage, that opens up the pocket posts. And you run your play actions, and you got a light box. But then you can even get some stuff working inside. But if you don't have that 2 double tension point of Waddle and Hill, then you get the compression. And when you get the compression, it makes it harder to run, and it really does restrict those pocket posts. Because then even the linebacker, he knows I don't have a threat on the other side. I know they can't run inside. Let me drop. If you watch the Ravens, that's what they did. Roquan Smith, he would just drop back. They know the point where that pass is going, and they would just drop back and get up there and start restricting the angles. And so it's the 2 receivers that allow this poor offensive line and what we're able to do. If you take Hill out of the equation, then you've got to alter your scheme, and you've got to really buff up that offensive line. Now, if we had Connor on a team and we had Hunt on a team, now there's possibilities, but both these guys are pulled out of the picture, and you don't got a tight end who can really block except in the pass game, and you don't really have an offensive line right now. And how much can you really get? What capital can you get? I don't know. I don't know if it would be enough. It would be very hard scheme-wise, concept-wise, to fill, because Hill and Waddle are like, tons of like, what is it? Some of those makeup companies. What's the name? I don't know what. I was trying to not Avon. I don't know, whatever. It's like putting heavy makeup on a crack whore. And at a distance, you look at it and go, "Wow, that's good looking." Sorry, ladies, if you're over here. And then you get close and you see all the sores and the disease and the lesions underneath. That's what Hill and Waddle do. They put so much face paint and makeup on this like rotted interior, this rotted foundation, that if you move either one of them out, it's really big trouble. So that's what I think, and it's just my little take. There's been reports, but if it isn't from the rap sheet or someone, what reports on what? What are you talking about there, bro? I got lost. Fortify the O-line and keep Hill. Yeah, that's the goal. It's all you can really do. It's not going to be easy to fortify. I think we can. And it's a shame if you just drafted Zach Tom in that 4th round. It would have made life so much easier. Let's see. The offense is limited to 2-second window. McD tried to use his pre-snap abilities in order to live in that 2-second window. When teams learn, we were able to collapse the pocket with. Yeah. If you notice, Tua's biggest plays are 4 seconds and over, but we can't. They know. See, what you do is you play man, okay, and you get up on the guys. Look what they did to Hill, and they blasted him down on the ground. You get up in man. You play 2 high cover safety look in your nickel. And when you play man, it forces guys to have to make a few extra moves, and it bumps that clock up into 2-2-5, 2-3-5, 2-4-5, 2-5, and then the protection can't handle it. And so then what you got to do is you call more screens and you call more play actions, but all that does is it restricts you and it constricts the whole offense, and you're playing into the defense's hands. And so that's the major problem. We have to live in 2.9 seconds, and we can against poor teams. But against the better teams, they're able to stop the outside runs because they know they're going to throw screens. And then the outside run stop defense calls also work for the pocket post and then the corner outs that we sometimes runs, and then the flies. If you can't run inside in those A and B gaps and break that nickel or suck guys up, that second safety up, or crunch the linebackers up to open the space for the pocket post, then you're doomed. You're doomed. I think the offense is more limited by the O-line more than 100%. And it's not to say Tua is the greatest thing ever. That's not the point. I can put any quarterback on this team and they would have the same problems. I don't even care who you are. I mean, Marino's going to make better reads. Like sometimes people they're sitting there drinking their tea and eating their chips, and they're like, Tua should have thrown it here. He should have thrown it here. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not reality. You know what I mean? Like, it's not reality. And any quarterback would be restricted by it. Look at Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Both his tackles go down, and he was total. They were like, is Mahomes really as good as we thought? That's what the whole talk was after the Super Bowl. It was the offensive line went to trash. And then what did KC do? They rebuilt the offensive line, and then they won a whole Super Bowl. Mahomes got hurt. He was gipping around. They handed the ball off, and the offensive line blew everybody off. I mean, it's not that Tua is going to win if he has the right framework, but clearly this framework will restrict anybody. I said it in my podcast. Dan Marino, he had Dwight Stevenson, and then Dwight Stevenson got cheap shotted by Marty Lyons, and then his production went straight down to the bottom. And then he had his second rise when Webb and Sims came in. Offensive line, even with Dan Marino, makes the NFL world go round. That's it. Yep. It's not rocket science. But the problem is, I'm going to kind of wrap it up here, guys. I think we've gone on for a long time. Sorry. A lot of media guys. And a lot of guys, the big media, and then the little guys like me, they don't understand offensive line. They don't understand what the value is. They don't know how to evaluate it. I'm not saying I'm the best in the world, But if you don't understand the foundations of the game, then all your offenses, all your evaluations for the rest of the game start on the wrong premise, and then they build out from there. And it's not to say that some of these evaluations, even though they start on the wrong point, are not correct or close to correct, but they tend to go off way too much. And that's why you hear it's, do it. We had Craig Kaufman, I can't get that guy's name now, from 3 yards per carry. Brilliant summation. It was like he just could have dropped the glove at that point. He showed a chart. Worst pro set pass blocking grade in 9 years by a long shot. And then we had the fastest throwing time maybe in the history of the game. So the easiest job in the last 9 years, clearly, maybe in the history of the game, and we were still the bottom of the toilet in true pass protection. And then you're going to talk about Tua? Like, no matter how, you could say Tua, but he's not the bottom 9 years in anything.
No.
So if you're not starting with that premise, then, you got an axe to grind, or you're just not really savvy. So anyway, guys, you guys are the best. I wish I got to get ready for my trip tomorrow. I got to go do a business trip, and then got to watch the rest of a movie with the kids. I appreciate all you guys do here, the comments. I wanted to get to all of my. I'm sorry if I missed some of you guys' comments. Skylar, thanks for coming on. Lucas, thank you for coming on. Guys, anybody wants to come on, contact me at curtis@aceperhead.com. Come on. I get tired of talking, so, maybe not. I don't know. My wife says I got a big mouth.
It's fun. He makes it easy. You click on the link, and there you go.
Yeah,
I think Skyler did it from his phone. I've got a laptop with a little camera up here and everything.
Super the whole easy. Cabana in the background. You're big time. Anyway, guys, Lucas, I appreciate guys. Be well. Have a good weekend. I will catch up with you again soon. Thank you for everything. And yes, Amy, Jessica, go Fins!
Go Fins!